Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a closer look at a really powerful source you shared with us. It's a personal essay, and it digs into that complex place where trauma and autism can intersect.
Yeah, it's quite something. This essay gives some incredible insight,
Hmm.
especially focusing on how, well, a different experience of time can really change someone's sense of safety.
And their boundaries, how they connect with people.
Exactly. All of that.
So our mission today really is to unpack the core ideas here. We want to try and understand something the author describes that feels, well, surprising at first. Like, why can a simple act of kindness sometimes feel like a threat?
hmm And what does it actually mean when the past isn't just memory, but it feels like it's happening right now?
Right, and the sheer challenge, too, of navigating life when there's just no map for your specific
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, no clear guide. And, get ready for some surprising details from the author's own life and some real emotional depth. There's even a poem in there that captures things prose just couldn't.
Okay, yeah, let's dive in.
Let's do it.
So, okay, let's unpack this opening story. It starts with a moment that seems, well, pretty normal on the surface, right? A friend offering support when things were tough last autumn.
And the friend just asks, a simple question. Do you need me to come over?
Seems like a standard, kind offer, but the author's reaction, it wasn't standard at all, was it?
No, not really. It was immediate and really visceral. They talk about feeling their body, their nervous system just instantly flooded.
Sort of flooded, yeah.
Like they were, quote, quietly unraveling beneath the surface. So definitely not the calming effect you might expect from an offer of help.
And here's where it gets, well, really interesting based on what the author shares. That kindness, that simple question, it didn't just make them uncomfortable.
No, it did something more profound. The author says it pierced the membrane that keeps them from now.
Pierced the membrane, so it just, boom, transported them.
Instantly. And not just back to one specific bad memory, but as they put it, to all of them, all at once.
Okay, wow. So that leads into this core idea the author presents about how their internal system works, right?
Exactly. They explain that their system, it doesn't process time in sequence. It processes in constellation.
Constellation, that's such a powerful image. Not a straight line, but points scattered across, well, space, I guess.
Right. And the implication the author draws from that is huge. They say, so the past was the present. It always is.
Not just like the past is present, but for their system, neurologically, it is present.
That's how they describe it, yeah. It makes it neurologically and even somatically, like in the body, incredibly difficult to tell the difference.
The difference between what, exactly?
Between a caring friend showing up at the door now in the present and a threat from the past arriving unannounced then. The body can't easily separate those two experiences.
That sounds incredibly disorienting. The author uses an analogy for this, don't they, about their home?
They do. They talk about their sanctuary home, this place called the Ridge, and how in that moment it literally felt like it was shifting under me.
Yeah.
Neurologically, somatically.
So the safe place itself felt unsafe or unstable.
Yeah, it's sort of blurred. The physical safety they'd built, it got mixed up with the dangerous memories. That distinction between the safe here, not now, and the dangerous then. It just collapsed. The body couldn't hold on to it.
Wow. Okay. So after having such an intense, confusing experience like that, what did the author do?
Well, they did what many of us might do. They went looking for answers. They described doing this really deep dive into research, trying desperately to understand why that happened, why that specific reaction.
Makes sense. So they looked into journals, articles.
Yeah, trauma studies, autism research, searching for anything that could kind of map out their internal world, make sense of it.
And what did they find? Or maybe, what didn't they find?
That's the thing. It was the emptiness of what they didn't find that was really significant and frankly pretty isolating.
So just it. Nothing.
Basically, yeah. A real lack of existing understanding or resources for people with this specific mix of experiences. The author points out a really specific gap. They found, quote, no one is mapping complex trauma in gestalt language processors.
Okay, hang on. Gestalt language processors. Can you break that down a bit? What does the author mean by that term, and why is it important here?
Yeah, it's actually a really key point for understanding their perspective. Gestalt language processing. It's a different way some autistic people pick up language.
Oh, different how?
Well, instead of mostly learning word by word, then combining them, that's more analytical processing, Gestalt processors often grab language in bigger chunks first. Think like whole phrases, groovy quotes, song lyrics.
Ah, like learning the whole tune before the individual notes.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And then later, they might break those chunks down into individual words. So this can really shape how they understand the world, how they communicate. They often focus more on patterns, intonation, the overall shape of things.
Rather than just the literal sequence of words.
Exactly.
So, if your system is already kind of wired for pattern and shape, how does that interact with trauma, where patterns of past danger are so powerful?
That's the crucial intersection the author couldn't find mapped out. They found no charting of unspoken scripts for trauma in that specific context.
No scripts, like no understanding of how those traumatic patterns play out for a GLP.
Right. No protocol, no suggested therapy path, no clinical studies. The author even says there wasn't really a market for understanding this specific experience.
Gosh, that search. It must have felt incredibly lonely, realizing, as they put it, that no one is looking for people like me.
It sounds deeply isolating, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But out of that feeling, that lack of external answers, something else emerged for the author.
What was that?
A poem. The author says it came out not as prose, but as poem. As refusal. As script.
As refusal, as
Yeah.
script. Wow, so it's like the poem became the only way to articulate something that just didn't fit into regular language or the categories they were finding.
That's the feeling you get, yeah.
Mhm.
And reading it, you really sense that contrast the author lives with. The friend's offer is described as a chimus, an offer, soft, round-edged, clearly meant well.
But the body's reaction.
It's just immediate chaos.
Yeah.
The poem says, my body spills, my breath forgets how to be mine. It captures that total disconnect, between knowing something is kind intellectually and how the body just reacts.
There's that line, too, about interpreting "I'm coming inside." Such a simple phrase, but for the author, it echoes past trauma.
When the door never locked, when closeness came with teeth. It's incredibly vivid. Shows how that phrase just instantly maps onto an old, dangerous pattern.
Even in their safe place, the Ridge, they describe it as a home bought in blood and exit signs, miles away from where bad things happened, a place where they have control, where no one has ever touched me without permission.
Right. But even that hard-won physical safety doesn't switch off the body's wiring.
Because, like the poem says so starkly, their system is wired for pattern, not probability, for shape, not context.
Exactly. It's not weighing the chances of danger now. It's recognizing the shape of a past threat. Right here, right now.
The now is then is the thread, is the memory, just collapsed together.
Yeah. And the poem really conveys that painful truth. Knowing your friend means well. I know your intent. I know your heart. That knowledge doesn't stop the body's trauma scripts from running.
The head knows one thing, the body does another.
Completely. And the poem also clarifies something important about the Ridge, about the safety created there. It's not presented as like ultimate healing or resolution.
Right. It says, this is not healing, this is containment.
This is sanctuary with a pulse. It implies it's fragile, an active process of holding things together, not a finished state.
Which leads right into that core conflict, doesn't it? I want to say yes, the desire for connection is there.
Absolutely. But I live in a body that flares like a fuse at the knock of a question. The nervous system just reacts to the shape of the interaction, sees potential threat.
So the author talks about building this place, the Ridge, with a real vision in mind, right? Not just for themselves.
Yeah, it was meant for sharing joy. They mention specific things they built, like a ninja warrior course, a fire pit.
Yeah.
They talk about appreciating the quiet, no streetlights, the sunrises, sunsets.
Sounds idyllic, peaceful.
It does. And they add this really important cultural context, too, saying, they're people. They don't hoard joy. Sharing it is vital. It's like a declaration, a resistance, a right.
Which makes the author's personal reality even more, painful, doesn't it? Because despite wanting to share that joy, that space, and valuing it culturally...
They explain the paradox. I remain me. They still carry those old echoes, that nonlinear time experience, even in their own sanctuary.
So just going outside to light the fire pit, something simple.
Can instantly snap them back.
Yeah.
Suddenly in their body, in their nervous system, they're 5 years old again, or 23.
Yeah.
Reliving past dangers right there in their safe haven.
Gosh, okay. So this leads them to wrestle with explaining this to people, right? How do you even begin to tell someone why you can't just invite them in?
Exactly. That internal struggle is palpable. Wondering if anyone would actually get it. Would they understand why the door stays closed sometimes, even when connection is desired?
And they worry about how others might see it.
Yeah, seeing the boundary as just thickness, like being difficult, or rejection. rather than understanding its sacredness, that it's a necessary container for safety.
They fear people might think they don't trust them, or that they're being selfish or cold.
hmm And the author describes this intense mental calculation, the maths of it, they call it, thinking through all the thousand possible outcomes, each branching, each fragile.
Just trying to explain or inviting someone in, the risk feels enormous.
The risk of being misunderstood, misinterpreted, maybe even causing unintended harm. It all generates heat, the author says. It leads to friction, internal conflict, and often just shutting down.
Which brings us to the script they end up using.
Right. The social script that often becomes the default. Thank you, I'll be okay.
And let's look at how the author breaks that down, because it's really key. They're very clear. It's not true.
No. Internally, they might be very much not okay in that moment.
But the script, it's smooth.
Yeah, it serves a vital function. It closes the door gently, avoids conflict, lets the moment pass without combustion.
And protects everyone involved in a way.
That's how the author frames it. It protects them from my pain and me from their confusion. It prioritizes, like, situational containment over expressing the messy, complex, dysregulated truth inside.
Then the essay does something powerful. It connects the author's very personal experience to something broader.
It does. They bring up that frustration and confusion some parents might feel when their autistic children withdraw. Saying things like, my autistic child won't come out of their room, like something's broken.
And the author's response to that is just, wow.
Yeah, they emphasize this deep bodily resonance with that child's experience. They state it so simply, but with such power. I am that child. I never stop being them.
It reframes that withdrawal completely, doesn't it, from the inside?
Absolutely. And it leads to this idea that maybe this essay, this poem, maybe it could be the script I never had.
A script for others.
For other autistic gestalt language processors, maybe one's curled on their bed in the dark, skipping the party, unable to say why, giving words to an experience that often lacks them.
The author ends that part, hoping maybe others reading will see themselves. Maybe they're dreaming of a ridge of their own, feeling the shape of words they don't have yet.
Yeah, feeling that resonance.
So wrapping this up, what's the core takeaway from this deep dive? This essay really shows us, I think, the incredible complexity inside when complex trauma meets a nervous system that experiences time differently. Not linear, but like a constellation.
Yeah, it makes it so clear how even something meant kindly, like an offer of help, can inadvertently map onto past danger scripts. It turns seemingly simple social moments into potentially perilous territory.
And it really highlights the isolation, doesn't it? When there's no established research, no common understanding for your specific way of being in the world, that feeling of being unseen without a clear path.
Definitely. Profoundly isolating.
It really makes you question our basic assumptions, about how people experience reality. And it leaves us with a really powerful thought for you, the listener, to consider.
Mm-hmm. How much does our understanding of other people, how we read their actions, their boundaries, depend on us sharing a fundamental view of reality, something as basic as how time feels?
Right. And what does it really mean to honor someone's boundaries, their needs, when maybe those needs come from experiences or ways of being that are just profoundly different from our own, maybe even invisible to us?
Something to really sit with.